Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's discussion of the Wildwood development, the latest development coming in the ever-growing Red Mountain. If you've not met me before, my name is Stu Winchester. I am the editor, host, and founder of the Storm Skiing Journal and Podcast, which primarily is focused on analyzing the world of lift-served skiing in North America. Each podcast episode, I feature the leader of a different ski area. I do all sizes, large, small, conglomerate, independent, the little one in the backwoods, and I love them all. I just love lift serve skiing. But I have to say, I wouldn't have necessarily done this event for any mountain. Red is a really big deal. It is really special. It is really unique. It is one of the largest ski areas in North America, and it is the second largest completely independent ski area in North America, meaning one that does not have a parent company. Red is the ski experience is very unique, and it's the biggest ski area in North America without a detachable chairlift, which is a really cool atmospheric thing. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later if it'll stay that way forever. Red has somehow achieved this improbable status of being both this hidden gem and this iconic major ski area. It's on the Icon Pass, but it's dodged the worst of the Mega Pass era and the crowding that is so often associated with it. And from my point of view, I absolutely love what British Columbia is doing to enable ski area growth. It is a wall we've slammed into in the United States where too often municipalities are focused on stopping growth rather than enabling communities to grow and evolve in a natural way. And, there's a real community growing up around Red, in part because of those policies. And what I like about it is it's an extension of Rossland, not a replacement for it. Done in a very thoughtful way. And we'll get into that distinction. Wildwood is a very important next step in that. So today is meant to be a candid conversation about where Red has been, where it is going, and how the people behind it think about growth, community, and long-term value. I am joined on the left by Mr. Howard Katkov. Most of you probably know Howard, longtime president of Red, now chairman of the board, excuse me. Big part of Red's modern story and helped to both shape it for the modern era and preserve what was so special about it. On the right is Mark Schroetel, current president of Red. He came to lead Red after a long tenure at what I consider to be one of the United States' spiritual cousins to Red, Powder Mountain in Utah, similarly big snowy place with a lot of uh, fixed grip lifts, but a lot of character. A little bit different now, but Mark also worked for IndyPass and Entebeni Systems before he made this move to lead Red. His big focus now is on international growth, experience, and community. We hope that this session will give you a clear and more human view of what's happening at Red right now, what's driving its decisions, what's evolving, and what the long-term vision looks like, straight from the people shaping it. So I have some questions here, and we'll have time for a Q&A at the end, and hopefully you will leave us some useful perspective, whether you are already a part of the Red community or you are considering joining. So with that, Howard, we were just talking. You had a big, big life before you came up to Red. You were working in New York City and you founded a cosmetics company and you were living in LA and New York and going all across the continent. It's a big move to go up to BC, to Red, to Rossland. What drew you up there, Howard?
Long story, but the short story is that in kind of 1995 through 2000, I was looking for a place with 4 children to build a ski lodge, a house. And I wanted to find a place that reflected the environment that I grew up skiing in Mammoth, California, where at the time it was 2 T-bars and 2 chairlifts, and the lift ticket was $4 a day. And we slept in our Volkswagen buses in the parking lot and snuck showers in the ski school. So as I started to raise my family and came to this juncture where I wanted to have this home, I wanted to have a place that just was more community than style, and also to have a mountain that was extraordinary. a friend of mine named Jack Carey out of Telluride told me about this place for 5 years, from 1995 till 2000. And I came back from a trip, told my wife we're going to this town called Rossland. I knew nothing about it, and met a woman who showed me some real estate. And I didn't ski that day, trusted Jack Carey, and I bought some property and started building a house. So that's how I got here in 2000.
So it's one thing to step over the border, but how did you get involved in Red, and what kept you there so long? Because we didn't get into your career, but you were always a person who was very ambitious and moving ahead. So I don't think you would have stayed there if there wasn't a nice challenge and a really compelling story.
Yeah, so I didn't come here to buy a ski resort. Let's start with that. I came here to retire at the time, so I was 50 years old, and while we were building our house, someone said, "Did you hear the ski resort might be in a little bit of trouble?" And it necessarily wasn't in trouble, but the quick history, it was the third oldest ski resort in North America, the first in Western Canada in 1948, and it was owned by the community until 1986. And then they sold it just because of the complexity and cost of running a ski resort to six individuals from 86 until we bought in 2004. And at that time, one gentleman had passed away, another wasn't really feeling well. So it was really, people were just coming out of their comfort spot running this place. And I put together a group and purchased it in June of 2004, not knowing anything about the ski business, but I knew a bit about real estate because I was in that for 10 years and some other businesses I'd been involved in. But I came in here kind of cold turkey thinking, okay, I think I can do this. And I've learned a lot in these 22 years. But what drew me here and what keeps me here today is this place, this community, the association and the relationship of the people that live here, the people that work here, and the people that ski here, and the people who are buying homes here now. It has not changed. I've actually learned about this community through my process, as opposed to coming here, cold. And it's a very different place. And when you look at all the ski resorts that you see and visit, it has a commonality of like-mindedness. I mean, I could sit with somebody in 5 minutes who said, "I'm interested in maybe buying some real estate here," and tell them whether or not I think they fit here. And it's not that I'm a clairvoyant, it's just that it speaks to a core group of skiers and families and adventurers and retirees that are looking for the same thing: simplicity, authenticity, community, friendliness, and great skiing and great summer things. That's the common denominator that has been the thread that I have witnessed for 26 years, and also that I've worked hard in trying to maintain for the last 22 years since we've owned it.
So I'll zoom out here, and Mark, we'll get your perspective on the after, because you've been in Red for a few months now, 6 months, a year, whatever it is. It's not 26 years. So Howard had his perspective, came in the mid 90s and found a really special place. Clearly, there's something you liked about it, because I'll make the point for you that you didn't move to Red from, Iowa, nothing against Iowa, but you moved from Colorado. You were right down the road from Winter Park. You had great skiing in your backyard. You ran Powder Mountain. You know what great skiing is. So there must have been something about the community, and you moved your whole life up here, your family. What was it about Red that made you make that kind of commitment to, I mean, I don't know if you ever lived out of the country before. That's a big step.
Yeah, it's a huge step, and it was one I didn't take lightly, but it was one I was just supremely confident in, because I came here for the first time back in 2000, so right before Howard purchased it, and I brought my dad here for his 60th birthday, and it was the end of my first year being a GM in the ski resort, and it was kind of the culmination and a thank you to my dad for introducing me to skiing when I was 4 years old.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with the town of Rossland then. The Kootenays in general and Rossland specifically are just an amazing place that feels like no other. And when I was a kid, my dad was Air Force, and we got the opportunity to live in Europe, and we skied a lot in the Alps. And those towns and those ski resorts are intimately connected, and they feel like they grew organically. And it was just a different experience than everything we would experience back here in North America. And then when just out of happenstance, I had the opportunity to talk to ownership up here. Found out Howard was retiring. They seemed to be looking for someone a lot like me. And I reached out and we started a conversation. And I said to my wife, I said, this is a place I've always wanted to live. I never thought I would get the opportunity. As a matter of fact, I took the job at Powder Mountain because it felt a lot like Red Mountain, but I thought I'd never be able to live in Canada. And so it really felt like everything was coming together and it was meant to be. But before I accepted the job, I said to my wife, I said, you've got to come up and experience the place too, because she's only been through a couple of times in the summertime. She liked what she saw, but in Colorado, in those big resort communities, it's very transient. There's not that connection and community that's there. And that's what we felt was missing in our lives. And when we came up here, we spent 3 days up here in the spring before I made a commitment. And she wandered around town, went in every storefront, talked to everybody who she could stop on the street and asked them about their life in Rossland. And no one had a single bad word to say about Rossland. And she came away thinking this is the place we belong to. And that meant a lot to me. And my daughter was equally as enthused. She's 8 years old. And she felt for the first time in her life, because she'd only been raised in resort communities, that there was an actual town, an actual community, families here. And it felt like she belonged right away.
So that's a good place, Mark, to talk about the relationship between Rossland and everything you're building at Red Mountain. And Howard, I know you have some very strong thoughts about what you want the Red Mountain developments to be and what you don't want them to be in relation to Rossland. And the town was there long before the ski area is an industrial town. So talk about, as you're building the Wildwood and these other developments, what are you hoping to achieve in threading those communities together? What do you want that relationship to be like, and what is it like so far?
I mean, I view that this base area, our property, as a neighborhood of Rossland. And so, for instance, 20 some years ago, when we amended our official community plan, we lowered our commercial allotment here from 155,000 square feet to 70,000. So we basically cut it in half. And we did that because we did not want to build another village. We did not want to disenfranchise the community or the people of this community and the businesses of this community. We wanted to support those people. Having said that, this development here is very important to the city of Rossland, to supporting their own infrastructure. By example, the real estate that we have developed recently and others in this base area contributes 25% approximately of the taxes of the operating budget of the city of Rossland. And so each building that we build, benefits the resort with skier visitation, benefits merchants because everything flows downtown. The town is fantastic. People love this town, and it benefits the city. And so in terms of the vision, from a scale standpoint, we're large, but we have maybe 900 units left to develop here, and that will be it for this resort. And as you know, I mean, we've just sold through over 200 units in the last 3 years, so which is one of the highest absorptions in North America of real estate recently. So there's not a lot left. There will be a scarcity here, but the other things that we're doing, we're developing now a community park at the base of our area, Four Season Community Park. And it's a community park for our community that will also be used by the people who live here, people who visit here, people who buy real estate here, like Wildwood, will be next to this community park, contiguous to it. So we're very focused on that. We're very focused on contributing to the ski racing, focused on contributing to causes, focused on contributing to Trail Society. Once again, it's a seamless connection. That's the goal. In the last 22 years, don't look at the community as an asset to the ski experience here. And it's an asset because the members of the community who ski here are so friendly. They want to share this place. An example, last week, a guy was up looking at the trail map, and a local came up to him and said, "Here, you don't need to look at that trail map. Come on, chairlift with me. I'll show you this mountain." Happened. right? We have
That's
40
amazing.
snow hosts who are here that take you on our mountain for free, share stories. So the opportunity for people coming here is to experience something that frankly you can't experience anymore, which is those same people who are now buying our real estate saying, I didn't think this existed. I thought this kind of resort, the relationship and friendliness, et cetera, was gone. So that's been, so Mark's mission, and I'm helping him, mentoring him, is to maintain this relationship, yet continue to develop, because the success of our real estate funds the infrastructure, funds our projects, funds more snowmaking, funds the city. We're all joined at the hip. So that's kind of the general, has been our vision for 20 some years. And I'm confident that our board will support Mark with his great expertise for the next decade, which finally, I think the next 10 years for this resort will be the most exciting in the history of this resort.
So let's talk about that a little bit. It sounds like you're being very thoughtful about what's happening at the base of the mountain. Let's talk about the mountain itself. As I mentioned, huge ski area, largest one in North America with fixed grip lifts. Now, that's not entirely unusual. Taos just got its first detachable lift a few years ago. Loveland got one a few years before that. So you're not necessarily alone there. And there is something nice about a fixed grip lift. I love them, and it gives you time to rest, and it's great, and it's atmospheric. At the same time, you're talking about Mammoth, and I'm sure you treasure the memories of that experience, but you don't want to ski probably at a Mammoth with two T-bars anymore, right? Like you want something a little bit more modern. So as you look at the ski experience at Red, and for folks who are thinking about buying in long term, what can you say here about the hoped for evolution of the infrastructure on the mountain and the footprint of the mountain itself?
When
Let
we
Mark
yeah
start that.
yeah I mean, when we look forward, what's really going to drive visitation is the real estate growth here, because it's going to establish more bed base, and that's really been the big impediment for people coming here, was there just wasn't enough places to stay.
Mhm.
And as we look at the pace of our real estate development, we're going to pace resort expansion to stay in lockstep with that and not erode the ski experience. Because right now, yeah, I mean, on a powder morning, there's a lineup to get out of the base area on the fixed grip lift that comes out of the base area. There's
Mhm.
really not a need for detachable lifts or more lift capacity here, other than the first 20 or 30 minutes of a powder day.
Okay.
And but as we expand, it's going to be thoughtful expansion on the mountain to match the capacity that's coming online in the base area. So we look at Kirkup, which is now serviced by a single ride cat, as a potential area to put a new lift up there. We look at White Wolf Ridge as a potential area to put a new lift and expand skiable terrain that's lift service. Those are within our current tenure. We have the ability to do that fairly easily. We don't perceive that the demand is there yet, but the demand is going to drive that. And we're going to try to stay ahead of the demand curve so we don't degrade the ski experience. There's also some other interesting technology that I've been looking at, that's coming online in Europe, that would allow us to have a flexible lift system, and expand and contract capacity based on demand, with kind of really it's autonomous tracked vehicles that would
Mhm.
be able to be reconfigured based on snow, based on demand, and help us address some of the capacity concerns as well. I mean, obviously, we need to see that and see proof of concept and make sure it's real and works before we take a big leap of faith on those. But we're thinking outside the box, trying to figure out those solutions before the problem exists.
Yeah, and let me just add one thing. When you talk about fixed grip, I've skied here 26 years, and I've never said to myself as a skier, God, I wish I could get up faster. What
Mhm.
I've said is, a few days ago, I sat with two retirees from Toronto and spent 16 minutes talking to them about life. And these guys bought condos here 2 years ago and retired, and they moved here permanently because this for them was it checked all the boxes to retire. We look at, capacity and speed in relation to the ski experience. Once you get on this mountain on a powder day, by 1 o'clock, you're going to be tired. And maybe by 10:30, you're happy that it's 16 minutes versus 9 minutes. And then you look at the perspective of life. Are we in such a hurry? Everybody's in a hurry in this world. Fast pace. This is a slower pace. This lowers your blood pressure. Having this lift system is not an impediment to the ski experience. In fact, as you know, Stu, it protects the powder because you're not blowing people up there, doing laps. So, we look at the evolution of our infrastructure being developed to preserve that experience, and he has a lot of experience in that.
Yeah, that was a decision that seemed to be very deliberate at Powder Mountain. There was just one high-speed lift at that mountain. They've since installed a second one, actually, I think a third one as well this past summer. But what is your experience with this transportation system within the mountain, Mark, and how you can configure that so that it's an atmospheric plus while still giving people optimal access to that ski terrain?
Yeah, I mean, Powder Mountain was a great example. I mean, it was a very thoughtful layout of the lifts that encouraged circulation. And again, same thing there. We manage capacity a little differently through ticket caps and limiting the number of people on the mountain in a day. But the lift system itself encouraged circulation. It preserved the powder, as Howard pointed out, and it never became an impediment to the ski experience because if your crowds aren't there, you don't really need to push people up the hill faster. It actually, in my mind, it enhances the ski experience because it forces you to slow down and enjoy the people you're with and enjoy the experience and take in everything around you. That being said, there may be a day where, and I think the primary driver might be mountain biking, because the first summer of the mountain bike park last year was a huge success. We sold more day tickets than we thought we were going to sell by a huge margin. And the need may be there and be driven by the mountain bike experience for a high-speed lift out of the base area. But again, it's there to enhance that experience, remove the pain points when they exist without detracting from the experience on the rest of the mountain. Because if we put a high-speed lift up at Paradise or up Gray, we're just going to be putting more people on that terrain faster and degrade the ski experience when there are no lines that we're trying to break. Until those lines exist, I don't think we have an issue where we need to upgrade the entire lift system and increase capacity far outsized to what our visitation is.
And when you also think about economic choices, because we're not a big conglomerate and we are an independent company, and our financial metrics are different than large multinational companies. So we have to be very strategic in everything we do from a capital standpoint. But if you came to this decision to put a chairlift in Kirkup and open up this incredible additional terrain for everyone versus take that same investment and put a high speed at the base, I could argue that from a local standpoint and from a destination standpoint, having another 750 acres terrain with 2,000 feet of vertical might be more compelling for the ski experience.
Yeah, I will always take more terrain over faster lifts.
And there's ways to mitigate that too. I mean, if we have overcrowding for that first 30 minutes on a powder day coming out on silver load out of the base area in the morning, we can do things to solve that as well. There's capacity and timing of arrivals that we can look into to manage that and be creative about how we manage that. Push people up to topping, which is another lift that gets people up on the mountain faster. There's all kinds of solutions to that. It's not always let's get the newest and the fastest lift out there, and that's going to solve all problems.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I want to pick up on your mountain bike point here, Mark, mostly to step out of my own ski-centric worldview because ski season is 4.5, 5 months at its best, and you're buying a home that you can use all year. So as you talk to folks who have purchased homes at Red, why have why has that opportunity resonated with them so strongly, and what have they found when they got here?
Well, I think, it comes back to the community experience more than anything. I mean, I was having drinks with a buyer the other night who already has a commitment to Wildwood. He and his family are here. They rent a condo because the Wildwood's not going to be ready for 18, 24 months. Um, and they just want to be here. And while we were sitting there having drinks, he did the math in his head because the dollar is so strong, the value proposition is so great that he decided he was going to buy one of the units in the Dally that's going to be ready in the spring for a place to stay, and it was going to be cheaper than renting while he's here. And
Mhm.
it all came back to the affinity he's developed for the mountain and the experience. Their first experience was not skiing here. Their first experience was coming up in the summertime and
Mhm.
seeing how great the climate is up here, the number of activities that are here, from being out on the water, out on the trails. We have hundreds of kilometers of trails that all weave through and around the town and the resort. There was just no lack of things to do, and the mountain bike park, as we built it, is truly accessible to anyone. And that's just one more thing for them to do and feel connected to. I mean, he felt so connected to this resort that he's made his own Red Mountain stickers with fun slogans that I probably wouldn't repeat on here.
Trademark
But yeah,
violations.
but he's taking him back to Maine with him to spread the good word about Red Mountain. And I think that just underscores the connection people feel when they're here. It's not your typical resort where you feel like I'm buying this as an asset. I'm going to go. Maybe I'll occupy it a few weeks a year. I'll ski. It'll be an experience like every other mountain, and then you go home, and it's kind of an afterthought. Here it becomes part of your life and part of your core that you're connected to this place and this mountain.
Yeah, and that bike park, you talk about community again. When we decided to build this, we went to the Gravity Lodge, one of the best bike park designers in North America. They did the A line at Whistler, and our instruction was it has to be world class. It has to equal the reputation of this resort. But it's turned out to be like the beach for the community. The families here drop their kids off in the morning, and the kids are at this bike park all day. You know, and then the destination people are here obviously experiencing that. But here's an asset, an expensive investment that will be continuing for the next 5 years, because ultimately I have some vision of where I'd like to see this thing end. But once again, it touches homeowners who are coming here and the community. And so when you're here in the bike park in the summer as a destination visitor, you're surrounded by children. I mean, 5 years ago, there was one first grade class in this town. There's, I heard today, 6 first grade classes here. The community of Rossland since 2006 to 21 has grown 26% in rural area, in a rural area. Rural areas in BC have declined 1.8%.
Mhm.
I mean, people are coming here to live here with their children and raise their families, because having raised 4 children, and I can't think of a better community to raise children or to visit with children. I mean, this Monday, my almost 3-year-old granddaughter will be here, to start ski school. Then 4 days later, my other 2 grandchildren are coming with my other son. 2 days after that, my other child's coming here. And they're coming here because of the love of this place. And generationally, I've seen that I've now had friendships for 26 years here of people who are not part of the ownership, but have come here from Wisconsin, Minnesota, Texas. Same thing. Their children are now adults. They're coming here. They're getting married here. This is their place to be. And that's the compelling nature of this. I say it's a vortex. You get sucked in this place, and it's hard to get out of it because it touches so many points that make you frankly happy.
Yeah. So you both said something related and interesting. Mark, you said that Red was not like a typical resort, and you wanted people to feel a non-typical experience when they got here. And Howard, you said you have visions for the long term of what you want Red to look like. Now, you spent 26 years building this place up, helping to craft a certain environment, atmosphere. but you've made changes, right? I talk too much about lifts, but you have joined the Icon Pass. Like Red is firmly in the 21st century. It is a modern, well-known, respected resort, but you've managed to keep that atmosphere intact, and it's different enough that a guy like Mark, who knows all about the ski industry and has been to a million resorts, can come in and say that definitively. So when you're thinking about people who are trying to buy into this community or thinking about buying into this community, what is that different experience, non-traditional resort experience, or I don't know if I'm framing that right, but non-corporate resort, I guess, experience they're coming into now, and what do you want it to look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now?
I think it looks much the same. I mean, because again, we can have new buildings, we can have potentially new lifts, we can open new terrain, um, but the feeling has to remain the same. And I think that feeling is an adventurous spirit out on the mountain, locals who are welcoming and not at war with visiting guests, and a vibrant town that is so much a part of the experience when you come here. I mean, when I was living in Colorado, our main street in our town, even though it was one of the busiest Airbnb destinations in Colorado, had a lot of storefront vacancies. And you come here and there's none. And the interesting mix of those storefronts is they tick every box for people. I just had a friend in town from Park City, and they have everything and they have five of them. And she was saying, it's such a cool town. I really feel at home here, but I need, you know, a yoga studio. I need good restaurants. I need a great coffee store. I need a good bakery. I mean, and then we're walking down, just casually walking through town, and it ticked every one of those boxes. And I think if we can continue to grow the resort, have more consistent visitation, do it in a thoughtful way where we're not degrading the ski experience, it's going to only make that connection to the town more vibrant. I mean, when I was coming across the border for my immigration process, all the border agents wanted to talk about was the mountain bike park opening in a couple months. And it didn't really resonate with me at the time how impactful that was going to be, because some of the businesses had struggled in the summer in the past because there was not a lot to draw people to the area. And throughout the summer, you just watched the business on Main Street thrive, and then the amount of traffic that would transit from the resort on our trail system down to the Main Street, take advantage of everything it has to offer and come back up. I think we can expand on that too, as we just continue to become a larger and larger neighborhood of Rossland. I think that connection just deepens, and it becomes something that it's hard to define, but you know it when you feel it, that you've become part of the community.
I call it, I've said it a long time ago, we are an endangered species. You know that. What we have here, on the top 10 ski resort doesn't exist, period. But the other thing, talking about someone potentially thinking about buying real estate, and it's always a touchy subject, talking about real estate, which I'm semi uncomfortable about. There are people around here listening to me, but what we say is sincere. But when you look at, by example, the value proposition here, I had a guy here 2 weeks ago. I won't name the company, won't name the person, but he has built in every major resort in North America. And he said point blank to me, this is the best value proposition in North America, buying real estate here, buying Wildwood at that price point. So, and US buyers, it's plus 90%, have bought in the last couple buildings. And they're doing it because A, a place like this exists and they're discovering it. B, the value is extraordinary with the mountain, the community, and now what we're doing, investing in Four Seasons. And then the third piece is just a legacy for their family. That's the opportunity here. And so if you want a great bakery, we have one. Do you want two bakeries? We actually don't. Grocery store, it's called Ferraro's. I cook, he cooks. You talk to anybody about that grocery store, one of the best grocery stores they've ever been in. I mean, I talked to Danny Ferraro once. I said, I like fava beans. Well, I'll get you some fava beans. I mean, who does that? He gets me fava beans. So that's all part of the community experience. And that's why people who come here, it resonates with them very quickly. And then there are some people it doesn't, which is fine. We don't speak to everybody. Our voice speaks to, it's kind of a now getting to be 30 something to, people my age, people in their 70s are coming here who are still fit, who are still active with their families. And we have a broad swath of kind of connection to different demographics, but the core is that 40 something adventure family professionals with kids. And these people love to be outdoors, love to be in nature, love to be in a place where they can take their kids without hordes of people.
Yeah, and I think that's important too, because when I talk to people in the community, they have concerns. I mean, they look at Icon, they look at some of the resorts on the Icon Pass and some of the overcrowding that they've experienced at those resorts. And we talk about growth and we talk about sustainable and responsible growth. And I think it's easy to be dismissive of that and think we're just trying to drive volume and put as many people here as we can. And that's why we're on the Icon Pass. I think Icon does a good job of letting the resorts be the resorts and letting their character shine through. And I think the big differentiator here is we're not in the backyard of a major metro area. And the resorts on Icon that are seeing those crowding issues, it's not created by the pass. It's created by their proximity to those metro areas. And we just don't have that drive here. And so it's got to be a thoughtful decision by anyone coming here, whether they're an Icon guest or whether they're someone that's just coming as a family vacation, that they're going to come to Red and they're going to be here for 3, 5, 7 days or longer. It's convenient to get to. You fly into Spokane, it's super easy to get here. But it's not right next to a Denver or a Salt Lake or an LA where you've just got a huge population base that's going to drive crowding problems on peak times no matter what.
And, for us, 22 years ago, when I started to kind of roll up my sleeves and say, okay, what do I do tomorrow? Now that we own it, we had to really, struggle with the fact that it was hard to get to. I hate those words, but it's not like jumping on a plane for an hour and a half from San Diego, landing in Salt Lake City and taking the shuttle and you're in, Snowbird. So it's maybe a few more hours. What's happened with the evolution of the ski industry that you know so well, Stuart, is that the experience has changed. And, I take my hat off to every ski resort out there. It's a tough business. And the West Coast has had, a little tough winter this winter, right? But this is now an asset for this place, for anyone who comes in as a destination visitor or anyone who comes and buys real estate, because they know that our mindset is that we're going to protect that. But secondly, you just look at the location and the geography. We have this natural filter that will protect us and will protect us for the next 100 years. I'm convinced of that because of the amount of terrain that we still can expand to and the limitation of the amount of real estate that we're going to end up building out here. It is a scarcity ultimately. And when we look at the project now, I mean, there's these projects. There might be 20 more of these in the next couple of decades, and then that's it. But it's going to have a scale that's going to be consistent with a neighborhood relationship to the community of Rossland, with what I call a few more creature comforts.
Howard, you said something really interesting to me the other day, which is that you didn't necessarily intend to build Wildwood this fast, and this was a couple developments ago, and then you did Glaze and Wildwood. Could you just talk about reorienting yourself to say, no, that we can accommodate more here without compromising what we have, and these new developments will fit into where Red is headed?
Yeah, I mean, what we're building is luxury in a nice way. I mean, I just finished the Crescent. We did 70 studios because we wanted to provide some, affordability for people, who couldn't afford to buy something in Colorado. And there's an example. There's a guy I met and his wife who lives in Colorado, and his dream was to own a property, at a ski resort. He ended up buying a Crescent. that accessibility for me was super important with the Crescent. But then we started to see the change of the demographic, where people who could afford something more, that is still the same core demographic, wanted more. They had more kids. They don't need, studio doesn't work. They need 1 bedroom. They need 2 bedrooms. They need 3 bedrooms. So we tested that with the Dali, the 89 units, and it sold out. But we also saw that people listening to them and learning from them, they like, they want a sauna, they want a spa, they want the pools, they want the gym, they want, hardwood cabinets. And when you look at the affordability for that, you look at the Wildwood and you look at the American cost per square foot in purchasing, price per square foot compared to other resorts, I mean, it's 2x, it's 3x less,
right,
for that quality. So, those people are looking for the quality, but it is at a price with a product that surrounds it that is, like I told you, like this gentleman said, that's just very unique. So it's okay to invest in a building like the Wildwood and have nice amenities and nice features in each of those units, because we want people to be proud when they own this, whether they rent it or not rent it. And as a builder, I've developed off and on my whole life. It's very nice I call it scope creep. It's nice to, give those things, to the customer, because you want to give them great value. And Wildwood is extraordinary value.
All right, with that, I think it's time to survey the audience a little bit. And I want to start out now with a question, but with a comment from a local whose name is Robert. He said, please mention the distance to town from the hill. We walked it 65 years ago as kids, which I think will help make the point that what we're talking about is not two separate things, the ski resort and the town, but a sort of continuous organism. But can you comment on that,
yeah, it's
Howard?
depending on where you are in town, it's about 2.5 to 3 kilometers from the base of the resort to right down on Main Street. So it's an easy walk. We have a
In
great
boots,
trail system
ski
that takes
boots?
you right there. So I mean, we see people. I've never seen anything like it at a ski resort. The number of people that ride their bikes to work in the winter, because we've got a
Wow.
maintained trail that
Uh-huh.
runs right from their house right to their place of work right here.
It's called Centennial Trail,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
city is paving it and lighting it this next summer. So it's from the
Wow.
town to up here. It's
Yeah, I mean,
fabulous.
my daughter's actually super thrilled with the trail because they used a special stone that it actually glows in the dark at night.
Oh,
And so she's psyched about that.
Well, picking up on the bike theme, so you have the bike path from town, you have the bike system on the mountain. Now, one audience member says, I spent some time in the bike park this summer. How did the first season go? It sounds like, well, you talked
Yeah.
about the atmosphere and the joyousness and the kids. And are there plans to expand it in the future?
There are plans to expand it. We've got multiple phases already laid out. We started 2 new trails towards the end of last season already. Those will get completed this summer and should be rideable right around opening this year. And then we'll just have to see how we put the other phases into play as demand grows. Like I said, it exceeded our expectations in terms of ticket sales, especially. Our past sales exceeded expectations, but our ticket sales were a big surprise and a great surprise. So we're looking at that and looking at what we do to keep the experience what it is for the ski season in terms of being uncrowded and accessible, but also feeling vibrant and having a lot of stuff to do. But yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of plans, and there's some great events in the pipeline, both for biking and for the non-bikers that are accompanying their overzealous biking friends that have dragged them here, just to keep them engaged for the summer and give them something to do.
and talk about the plaza, hopefully.
Oh yeah,
As our 4-season, step.
yeah. So we started the first phase in the grading of the plaza in between the Josie, which is a great hotel here in the base area and the main base lodge, and we just finished a new coffee shop called Peak Provisions. It's going to be the primary food and beverage outlet for the summertime, and it's going to sit right on this plaza. And that will be kind of the center of circulation and activity. And we're hoping to have that finished by the time we open mountain bike.
So when the Dali opens, the sense of entry, the arrival will be beautiful. And then there'll be a real people-oriented plaza that connects the buildings that are up here, and provides, a great asset with fire and sitting areas, signage, and
The
that's
sense of entry.
that's the steps that we're taking. I mean, we do thoughtful steps from a capital standpoint, but all of it to enhance the experience, not just the ski experience, the four-season experience, which is a big part of our thinking now. And that's why the bike park, became a reality. And it was, it started from my two partners that came in recently from Vancouver. And
So, um,
go ahead.
so that human scale, that sense of place, that's something that Europe in general, their ski resorts have tended to do a much better job of than North America. And you can also land at an airport in Europe, take a train in many cases right to the ski town or in some cases to the ski lift. So in that vein, I have several questions here about logistics, getting around transportation. One person is asking about transportation options from Spokane and if a red vacation is feasible without a rental car. So that's sort of getting there from that nearest states portal. Someone else wants to know about bus service in the evening for guests who want to go to Rossland and don't want to do that 2.5 kilometer hike. And then other guests are asking about the ski in, ski out access of the Glades in particular, but I imagine it's an opportunity to talk about all these different developments. So if you can paint a holistic picture for us of how do you get to Red from the hinterlands? How do you get around when you're there, both on the mountain and to the local amenities?
So we do have shuttles that run from Spokane to the resort. Howard also found a new private driver, very reasonable from Spokane that comes up here frequently.
So I'm sorry, Mark, when you say you have shuttles, is that if I get a ski and stay package that would be included, or that's an extra?
So it's an extra cost, but you can book it directly with the shuttle. It runs regularly. And then there's also a shuttle to Kelowna if you're flying into Kelowna as well, which is a little further. But those exist and they're easy to access and a great service. Once you're here, we have a mountain shuttle that runs back and forth between town and the resort, and it runs late night, so you can go down and grab food and come back up, just to make sure that again we're maintaining that connection to the town. Because, like you said, I have some fond memories of being in Europe with my family and jumping in a VW bus with the ski instructors from the ski school and going into town and going and grabbing dinner and going to a disco in town and one of the classic European discos, and then them driving us back in their own VW bus. And that's the type of connection that exists here. I don't think anyone's going to throw you in their VW bus, but they might. But we have our own shuttle that will definitely serve the purpose.
So it's not it. So it is a car optional resort. When I go to Aspen, I take the shuttle all around free
Yep.
between all the resorts. I don't need a car. So you're saying the same is true from Red, even if you're flying in from Spokane?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and the flights, I think there's probably 35 million people that are from cities that have direct flights to Spokane. I mean, this last week I came back up here out of Orange County. I live in San Diego, but Orange County started a 10:30 flight direct to Spokane. It was 2 hours and 20 minutes. We got on the flight at 10:30. We were in Spokane at 1:45, got in our car, boom, we were here in 2.5 hours. I mean, it's not, there's San Francisco, Oakland, Sacramento, Minneapolis, Denver, direct flights, Austin, Dallas. And those are people who are now buying our real estate from those places. So yeah, I mean, it's that piece of it is getting better and better.
I mean, me, Stu. I'm a little bit of a data nerd. That was one of the first things I did when I got here is I looked at total
Little
travel
bit.
time if I was coming out of LA or San
Yeah.
Francisco or Dallas to get here. And when you're laying just pure travel time for those markets to get to Colorado resorts, we're about the same, if not less. And then you throw in, what can happen to you on 70. And then our drive is really just a 2-lane drive through a valley all the way till you get here with no mountain passes. It's idyllic, and it's basically a guaranteed travel time versus a crapshoot on what you're going to get stuck in traffic on 70.
What's that border crossing like? Because I've been, I grew up in Michigan and I've been crossing back and forth between the Canadian border my whole life. And I found it's often quite a long wait, especially if you're used to that I-5 corridor going up from Seattle to Vancouver. What's the typical wait time
Oh,
or the process there?
I've never waited behind more than one car at the border crossing here.
Really?
They did tell me, they said there's a music festival in the summertime that during that they'll have long waits, but that's the
Okay.
only time that they ever experience waits.
I had
Yeah.
5 cars last week.
Okay.
The border here, they're very friendly.
Hmm.
Most of them live here. They ski here. They, like Mark said, they're also excited about the bike park. No, it's the Canadian people. They're and this community in particular are extraordinary people. They are just pure, kind, open, friendly, gracious people.
Yeah. So I want to go back. I don't want to overlook this question here about ski and scout access to Glade. I guess Dalian, if you could talk about Wildwood and
Of
what the
course.
access experience will be like.
Yeah, I mean, the Glades Phase 1 will have a ski in access that will be done when that phase is done. The ski out will be a very short walk, and then you'll ski down to the base lodge, or you can jump on the shuttle. Um, so, you know, nice. I mean, you're in the forest and you're walking, taking a couple minute walk to the base area, which once again is back to the mentality of this place. It's okay to walk in the forest and show up at the base area and then put on your skis. Wildwood is in the base area. It's not a ski in, ski out today. Potentially when we pull all the parking out of this base area, because that's another important part. That when this is built out, there'll be maybe 200 parking places in this base area. Everything will be pedestrian oriented. All the buildings that we build, you have to have underground parking. And our parking is across the street. And so we last summer spent a lot of money starting the development of the formal entry in this place, where the parking will be across the street. There'll be shuttles there. There'll be, tunnels that go under, pedestrian tunnels. And it's all contiguous to this new community park that we're building. So when you think about this place in the next 10 years, it's a place with buildings, pedestrians, people, services, not a big asphalt parking lot.
Yeah.
So the Wildwood is, contiguous to the park, beautiful views. And actually, from my point of view, not in the center of the universe, but it's in the center of the universe, but it's by the park, and it's a 2-minute walk max to the chairlift.
Yeah, that sense of place I think is so important, Howard. And I think it might help answer our final audience question here before I turn it over to you for closing remarks. And this is from Dan. Dan says, we are anxiously awaiting the move into our Dali unit this year after 4 years at Powder Mountain. One thing that makes our current situation special is our morning coffee, where we gather in a common area and meet friends and head out to ski different portions of the mountain. Do you have a vision for daily community gathering spots besides running into friends on the lifts and runs, which I think is kind of what you just described, but elaborate.
Yeah, I mean, so we just opened Peak Provisions. It's a very eclectic, beautiful, modern coffee shop and market. So we have some SKUs because, we now have, people living here full time. Our people, raising kids, you can go get a diaper, you can get orange juice, get a pizza, something to go if you don't want to, be in a restaurant. So this plaza will be a four-season plaza. There's going to be two, benched areas with fire, places to sit, places to relax. And that's a place to meet people. In Peak Provisions, the way our seating is, a lot of people are in there with a laptop, local or otherwise, having their coffee, working. Rafters Bar. It's about as organic as any bar in North America, a ski bar, but it's picnic benches. So you sit down next to people, you sit amongst people, very non-pretentious. And as we continue to develop, there'll be more restaurants in the base area, a few other things that will add to the experience. There's a guy literally next to the Glades that's building right now a Nordic spa. And a year from now, there'll be cold plunges, hot plunges, saunas, 2 pools, and these really cool eclectic cabins around there. But that Nordic spa that we will support is going to be a huge, addition to, things to do here.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. They Mount Bohemia in Michigan has a very popular Nordic spa that really atmospherically adds a lot to it. And they're rather rare slopeside in North America. So Howard, I'll let you close us out here with some final thoughts on the Wildwood and folks who want to learn more about the development and what you have in store for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's as I said early on, I mean, when you're sitting here talking about real estate, it's easy for me to talk to anybody who's on this, who is considering purchasing at Wildwood or other properties that we have. The first and foremost, it just has to resonate with you as a place. And secondly, you have to, feel that potentially, based on what we said today, it could be a part of your life and a part of your family's life. That to me is first and foremost. Secondly, you need to afford it. So, and it's big, as I said to you, the affordability and the value proposition here, especially for US, not only is it impossible to find this, but you also have the Canadian exchange rate. So it's just such a good deal. But once again, invest as a lifestyle for you and your family. And secondly, as a good long-term investment. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we're motivated to break ground in spring. And I know that the people who are online here will be getting an offer tomorrow. There's going to be a pretty aggressive offer to get people over the kind of the goal line to purchase. And they don't allow me to go through all of those details tonight. But they'll see that we have our real estate people who will answer any and all questions. But we're motivated to break ground on that project. And we're going to do something very aggressive, because once we break ground, the pricing just changes. It's the world of real estate. So this is a rare time to take advantage of that purchase. And so what I say is, look at it, think hard about it, make sure it's right for you. But there won't be a better time to buy Wildwood than right now. Fact.
Well, lots going on, Howard. It sounds like I'm gonna have to bug you to get on the Storm Skiing podcast again. And if you want to go see Howard's old episode, stormskiing.com is where you will find that. I appreciate the opportunity to host this conversation tonight. That was a lot of fun. But now I got to get to Red and make some turns with you this season. So let's get some snow out there and hope to see you guys soon. Good luck with this project. Sounds really great and really cool to see Red evolving in a different way from so many North American ski resorts, which are not preserving the atmosphere as well as you are there in Rossland. So well done and thanks for the time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stu.